7-year-old Nathaniel see me today, he would be confused and shocked and mortified maybe. But the reason why is because I never thought that I'd be where I am now. Never thought that I would be an entrepreneur, because I always believed that the only way for you to live a good life is for you to go to school, get high grades, go to a great university, get a high paying job, retire and live with your pension, and then start doing cool stuff when you're already retired. And I think that that is actually a path that is viable for 80% of the people. I'm not completely abandoning that path. I am actually going to go back to university. However, I've taken a kind of a different path because I've gone to entrepreneurship, and I have different plans other than just going to uni and getting a good job. I'm actually planning to migrate to the US and figure my life out there. Like, if you think about it, I'm kind of playing a fool where my path isn't set, where it's like, oh, I'm just going to follow this path and I'm going to be successful. I'm sort of in a place where I'm experimenting and I'm just seeing what makes sense. I'm just follow the road that makes sense to me, basically. And the reason why I'm comfortable doing this, even though it is a bit uncertain, is because it leads you to what I think everyone desires: freedom. Because the traditional route, it's always based on permission of people you don't even know, permission of the principal of your school, permission of president of the United States or president of the Philippines. Or you're always looking for permission from your boss, from a superior. And I think that we are inherently looking for independence and freedom. I think that in this age, especially with the internet and AI, that dream of independence and freedom is totally possible for everyone. If you think about it, before, people were only limited to where they were born. So if I was born in the Philippines, and let's say there's no internet or AI, I would probably be like some sort of farmer, right? Most of the economy of the Philippines is in agriculture. So you would be limited to what you had. But since there is like massive globalization, then one is more able to find freedom in their own way. And of course, there's like a pros and cons to the globalization of the world, where cultures are being blended. But I think that the globalization has allowed people to find a sense of freedom and independence that you can also find if you master 7 skills. Now, I'm not saying that these are only the 7 skills that you need to master. There's a lot more. But I think that these 7 are the foundation of being an entrepreneur and finding freedom. And this is based on experience. I'm not recording this video saying voodoo shit that I think doesn't work. The premise of this is these are the 7 skills that I did master to have the confidence to say that no matter what happens, even if I lost everything today, I know I'd make it back because I have these 7 skills. And so I want to share with you the 7 lessons that I learned. The first skill that I think is crucial is agency. And what this basically means is that you are not an object of the world. You are not a cog in the machine. You're a person with freedom. That is agency. Like, you're able to create decisions for your own. You're able to make movements, actions based on your own mind, not based on a set of rules and regulations that is given to you by your teacher, your boss, or the president, or anyone else. And the reason why agency is crucial, and I would say it's the most crucial skill for anyone in this modern world, is the fact that we are going into a globalized state. Like, most of the cultures are being blended. And so everyone is trying to influence one another. It's almost as if you go to a major city, there's no difference than another major city because cultures are merging. And in anthropology, well, in sociology, there's an idea of a hegemonic culture, meaning there's like a dominant culture that permeates the world, and everyone on the internet is competing for that. Everyone is competing for the right way to live. I believe that the individual still holds the power, because if an individual says no to someone, sets a boundary, then he is going against that influence. And for you to be able to say no to influence and just be a puppet and be a part of the matrix, so to speak, you need to have agency. These are three pillars that I follow. And the three pillars are: number one, responsibility. I think that you need to own everything in your life, even if it's not your fault. So when I was a kid, I used to blame everyone because I was an accident child, and I felt like the world was unfair because I was born with a disadvantage. I was an accident child. My mother basically disowned me, registered me in another's name, so my identity was faked. There was a lot of disadvantages on my life early, and I've always had a victim's mentality, and rightfully so. I would say that, you know, being a victim doesn't mean that you, like, being a victim is being a victim. If someone punched you in the face, you got punched in the face, right? If someone hurts you, you are a victim. How you react to that scenario is up to you. Therefore, that event is still your responsibility, even if it's not your fault. So it wasn't my fault that I was given a disadvantage. I was born in a third world country. As an accident, I never met my father. My identity was changed. It was still, even though I had a disadvantage, it was still my responsibility to make the most out of the cards I was dealt with. And it was a hard realization, but it was also the realization that gave me the power back. Because if whenever you blame someone and you're always trying to, like, make someone fix the problems, you end up not doing anything. And so you feel like, even though that person you're blaming does say sorry or fixes your life, it's not sustainable, because your peace came from the outside world rather than the inside, wherein you take responsibility, you fix your life, you become unbreakable, because it becomes an identity rather than something that's given to you. So I think responsibility is a crucial lesson for you to be an agent, again, agency. The next skill, I would say, the next pillar of agency is discernment. Now, I put discernment here, not judgment, because judgment is I think it's a very harsh word. And I think the only one that can really judge is God. I believe in God. And I think that the only person who can ever judge what is right and what is wrong is God. However, humans can discern. We can make decisions based on the facts that are given to us. I think we can't say what is ultimate right or what's ultimately wrong, but we can make the right decisions given the time and right information. If we can think objectively, that's a bad word. I wouldn't say objectively, but if we can be reasonable, if we can think with proper reason and not let our emotions get the best of us, I think that we are able to make good decisions that is aligned with who we are, not just with other people's influence. As we said earlier, the world will try to influence you. That's what culture is. It's always trying to influence you. Therefore, you must have the independence and discernment to counteract that. Now, I'm not saying that culture is always wrong. Culture could be right, but that's up to you to discern. So you must know yourself, your tendencies, your strengths, your values, and build a life that is in alignment to that. That's how you can avoid. That's how you can avoid chasing shiny objects that look like it would bring you what you want, but really it's just what the world wants and what the world is selling you. So practice discernment, practice how to make decisions based on your true nature, based on what you really want, rather than what other people is telling you should want. And then finally, I think to really practice agency is for you to understand gratitude. And what I mean by gratitude is it's not about you just being okay with where you are. I think that it's always good to strive for to be better, but gratitude is about living with an open hand, meaning you don't try to grab everything, because when you grab, like when you hold on to something for so long, you missed you miss the opportunities that could be better. But with you when you live with an open hand, you might lose some opportunities, but you're also open to new ones. Things aren't so good or bad as they seem, and things always turn out for the better. If you look at the world, even though there's a lot of negative things happening, most of the progress that we've experienced, most of the things that are happening are progressing towards betterment. Our economy, the society. If you compare lives in the 1800s to now, it's way off. Rather be a poor person in today's society than a rich person then, because they didn't have cure to certain diseases. They didn't have healthcare. Like, if you think about it, really, life now is way easier. Imagine being a caveman, right? Dude, if I was a caveman, I think I'd die. I have bad eyesight. Being grateful and seeing that life isn't as bad or as good as it seems, and just accepting what is, being grateful for that. I think it's a key strategy for agency. So those are the three, and that's agency. The second skill is psychology. Now, we will always be working with people because that's how life works. Of course, there's AI, which we will dive into later, but in entrepreneurship, you will always be working with people. And if you are working with people, then understanding psychology is a non-negotiable. So understanding how people think, behave, and make decisions is a superpower. And it helps you lead better, sell better, write better, and most importantly, live better. Because at the core of every business, relationship, and brand is a human being. Now, again, we talked about agency. I think there is free will. I don't think that I don't think that you can categorize someone in the psychological principles. Like, if that's the case, we would be robots. There's always free will, and we would make decisions different from what we expect in psychology. We're not robots, but we do operate in patterns. And this idea comes from Daniel Kahneman's idea of how the human brain is optimized for efficiency, meaning we want to make decisions that our brain is programmed to make decisions that are efficient, but not always as effective. We're not thinking of like the most effective ways to solve a problem. We're looking for the fastest and easiest way. That's why we don't always consciously think of things. We need to we operate sometimes in autopilot. Sometimes you look into the horizon and you just blur out. That's part of life. That's part of you being human. You just look into the horizon and just don't think of anything. And you're not conscious during that moment, but that's how your brain works. Looks for efficient ways. So we create shortcuts, we create habits and biases and heuristics, and this makes humans predictable. And understanding the tendencies of people is crucial when you are working in business and entrepreneurship and looking for your freedom. So I think a good place to start with psychology is understanding the 6 principles of persuasion, which is outlined in the book of Robert Cialdini, Influence. And I made a summary of that, of how you can use that in social media. I'll link it down below in the description so that you can check that out. And you can also check out the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. It's a great book. I think most of the entrepreneurs, he's the godfather of psychology of persuasion. Every entrepreneur knows that book. If they haven't read, if they haven't seen that book, then I think everyone. I just think that everyone, every entrepreneur that I talk to, they always talk about influence. All right, so that's the lesson. That's the second skill. Now the third skill is writing, and this might be a bit biased since I am a writer, but I genuinely believe that writing is the most underrated skill in online entrepreneurship. The reason being that writing is the foundation of every type of tweets, emails, video scripts, landing pages, carousel speeches. Almost everything that you see in media is based on writing because it's organized thinking. And when before like I created this video, even I have a script here. I'm going off script sometimes, but I have a script, an outline of what I'm going to say, because it's a way for me to organize my thoughts that would be presentable to you so that you could continue consuming my content. And the reason why I'm emphasizing content and media here is because content and media is one of the easiest leverages that you can use. So just to give you a quick background here, Naval Ravikant talks about there's four leverages in the world. Number one is collaboration, humans. So if you want to get more work done, hire more people. Logic, right? Like that's basic logic. And this is an old type of leverage, and the oldest type of leverage actually, because if you think about societies before, how successful you were would be determined by how big your company was and how many people you manage. That's collaboration. Number two is capital, money. Money is leverage. One of the people who perfected this would be Benjamin Graham, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger. Investors, people who know where to put their money so that they could multiply it. That's capital. However, these two things, capital and collaboration, need permission. To get money, you need someone else's permission to give you that money. For you to work with someone, to employ someone, you need to hire them. So there's permission. Now, the other two types of leverage, getting more work done, is code. So number one is code, getting robots to work for you. If you know how to code, if you know how to make automations, then you can basically have someone work on autopilot. That's what AI is doing now. Again, we'll get down to that later. But the other type of permissionless leverage is writing. Meaning, if you can broadcast information out to the world, then you can get a lot more work done than before. Wherein wherein before you had to talk to every single person to relay your message across. But now you can write something on Twitter and it'll be accessible to 500 million people. So that's the idea. And I think, again, every form of media is based on writing. And that's why I think writing is important. So the key though for me with writing is to understand how to write so that you could make people take action. Because that's what you want to do when you're selling or when you're building something. When you're on entrepreneurship, you need to learn how to write so that people would want to click your video, people would want to read your article, open your email, and that goes into the subset of writing, which is copywriting. And copywriting is all about salesmanship on print. You don't always need to sell something. I see copywriting as a way to make people take action. And one of the best books I've ever read in copywriting is the Adweek Copywriting Handbook by Joe Sugarman. And I've broken down, again, some tactics from his book that you can check out in the link below. I'll label that too. All right, so the fourth skill is marketing. So we talked about media a little bit. Now let's talk more about media, but a specific portion of it, which is marketing. Now, the biggest advantage, as I mentioned earlier, with the internet is you can reach almost anyone at any time with any message. And you don't have to talk to one person individually anymore. You can broadcast something. You can post on social. You can send an email. You can launch a campaign, and you can get eyeballs, even strangers, to see your stuff. And now if we use that advantage to things that we sell, then that's marketing. Marketing is just, when you think about marketing, it's just sales from you to a lot of people. Later, we'll talk about sales specifically, but with marketing, it's one to many. And the foundation of marketing is to understand three aspects of marketing. Number one is the avatar. The avatar is the person you're serving. So understand, who are you serving? What do they need? What are their pains? What keeps it up at night? What are their wildest dreams? Understand your avatar. The key is to understand them more than they understand themselves, because then when you talk to them, you can relay a message that really hits a spot and makes them feel like, this guy gets me. That's the key. The second key piece of marketing is the offer, the thing that you're actually selling. I think a good way of thinking about an offer is a transformation. Rather than just thinking of the product itself, I always look for the transformation that people will experience once they buy your product. So there's this meme of how Mario becomes he gets a mushroom and it becomes like the Super Mario. I don't know what you call that type of Mario, but so your product is the mushroom and Mario is your customer. Your offer is not the mushroom. Your offer is the transformation, the Super Mario. That's what you're trying to sell. You're trying to tell people that if you buy my product, you become this amazing person. And that's really offer, in my opinion. Finally, the last thing that you need to understand is the channel of where you're going to market. A key concept that you'd like to do whenever you're finding the right channel is to just look for where your avatar is hanging out already and then go there. So if you are selling to people if you're a fitness coach, you would most likely find your customers in Instagram. Of course, there are nuances to that. There's also nuances. There's also people on LinkedIn, on X, and all that other stuff. But as a general rule of thumb, you want to go to where most people are already looking for the fitness content, and it's most likely Instagram. So that's what you want to do. So that's marketing. Now, fifth skill is sales. Talk about marketing one to many, sales is one to one. And when you're doing sales, I think the biggest mindset shift to not make things complicated with sales. A lot of people, when I went into entrepreneurship, I had this idea that sales should be complicated. Like there's a lot of hacks and tactics and all this persuasion techniques. But the mindset shift that really clicked everything for me, made me think that made me good in sales, I would say, is to just stop thinking of sales as closing people, because it's just a mere objectification. I just don't like the idea of closing people. It's very manipulative. You see people as numbers rather than people. But seeing sales as establishing a good fit with your product and your avatar. So whenever I'm talking to someone, instead of trying to tell them, oh, this, like for example, like this, the AirPods. If I'm going to sell the AirPods, I'm not going to tell someone, oh, this is the greatest AirPods of all time, and this has been on my ears, Nathaniel. I'm the best person on earth, and you would want to buy this because you want my ears in your ears, and the things that I hear in your. It's like it's just full of bullshit. Instead, what I would do is ask you, do you need earbuds? Well, before I sell, I make sure that they are actually interested. So I would ask them, what got you into buying earpods? Like I would ask them, why do you want earbuds? And then they tell me why. And then I would go deeper into their problems and then see why this is a good fit for them. So there's no arbitrary way for me to sell to someone. I would cater their needs, the needs of that individual in the sales call to the product. And that's the value sales. You see how in marketing, you're really broadcasting a message, while on sales, it's really specific. It's more personalized. That's why it's a one-on-one experience, because you're selling to someone, you're establishing a good fit with their problems and your product. think that's the value of sales. And again, what I like to do is to position this as the solution while looking for the problem, the main problem of my client. And if they don't want AirPods, then I wouldn't sell it to them. It's just that's just it. If I get a no, are you interested in AirPods? And they say no, then they're not the right customer. There's someone out there who would want an AirPods. And if no one wants the AirPods, then I shouldn't be selling AirPods. I should look for something else, right? That's the idea behind that as well. Maybe the product that you're selling is crap. And that's the foundation of a good business, is a good product. If your product is crap, no salesman, well, there's some people, but I would rather give something of value than be seen as the schemy salesman who sold something to someone that they don't need. I just don't want that. I just don't want the guilt. At least I could sleep well at night thinking that I had a good day in my job selling something that could actually help people. So that's sales. I think that a lot of people, if they can understand that concept, would be less judgy of sales and think of sales as problem solving rather than sleazy talking. So that's sales. Okay, skill number 6 is artificial intelligence, or AI. Okay, I think AI is a skill, and I think that it's something that we all need to master, because AI is somewhat of a threat to humanity. I'm not saying that in a way that's we're going to get killed by AI, but I think that a lot of jobs will be replaced by AI because it's really good at automating stuff. And if you can program AI well, it can do a lot of mundane stuff for you so that you can focus on the creative stuff. Now, I don't think, though, that everyone will get replaced with AI. I think that people who don't know how to use AI will get replaced. But if you can learn how to get to use AI, then you will just become better at what you're doing already. The idea that AI will take all jobs is a bit silly to me. It's like saying that the internet, it's like, if you think about how there's so many technology that went into Earth, and we found a way to go around them and still create a good society, like a functioning society. It's just silly to think that AI will replace everyone. If everyone can be literate with AI, know how to prompt it, know how to use it, then you'll stop doing mundane things, and you can leave you space to do cool stuff that AI can't do. For me, one of the things that I like to do that's not AI is jujitsu. So now, because I've not mastered, but I've learned how to use AI, I can get work done faster, and I can start doing jujitsu, and I can start doing other stuff. With my work in entrepreneurship, I'm a ghostwriter. So with AI, I can research faster because I don't need to go through hundreds and thousands of articles in Google. ChatGPT will do it for me. Perplexity will do it for me. There's so many tools that I can use, can do that for me. So mastering AI, looking at different tools and understanding how you can maximize your experience with AI, maximize your productivity with AI, I think is a must, especially moving forward as it becomes more advanced. Okay, so the last skill, 7th skill, leadership. The reason why I say leadership is because I don't believe in the idea of solopreneurship. I think some creators can do it. I think like a lot of creators have been pioneering that idea. I think it's very attractive because it's like all the money's yours and you can do a lot of cool stuff on your space. And I think it's like props to people who can do that. But I've always thought of building something that is beyond me, not just centered around me. Of course, I also like the idea of solopreneurship, of doing stuff on my own. But I don't want to build a business just based on my own. I think 90 days after I started my business and I could afford to, I already hired people who I could train and I could get into the culture and grow with, because I think it's important to have someone that you can rely on and work with so that you're not always stuck in the weeds. And so a key concept, a key skill that has helped me manage that is leadership. And when I'm thinking of leadership, I'm not thinking of being a boss and trying to like say being good at showing orders. Actually, that's not what I try to do. What I try to do with leadership is to be a role model and do the things rather than just tell people what to do. So I wouldn't ask someone to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. While someone is sending DMs, I can think of the strategy of how we can optimize our content and all that stuff. And so that's why I think leadership is key, because another thing is that even though you are a solopreneur, you're still leading your clients. If you have clients, you're still leading your family, you're still leading other people regardless. So with leadership, I think a good place to learn is the people who have dire consequences when they don't do a good job in leading. Those are the military. Specifically, I like to study Joko Willink, the former Navy SEAL commander. Shout out to Joko. And he wrote this book. It's an amazing book. It's called Extreme Ownership. And he laid out great principles on leadership and team building that they use in Navy SEALs, but is also applicable into business. So you can check that book out. I also wrote a summary of that book in the description. I'll link it down in the description. I wrote a thread on that, and you can check that out too. So yeah, those are the 7 skills. Number 1, agency. Number 2 is psychology. Number 3, writing. Number 4, marketing. Number 5, sales. Number 6, AI. And number 7 is leadership. So moving forward, I think there will be massive changes in the world. It's absolutely crazy. Having these 7 skills will allow you to navigate the world better during that time of change. So I think that building this and trying to practice this is key to finding success. And so I hope that the people who are watching I hope that you watching this could master the 7 skills as I mastered them too. And let's get ready for what the future holds. Cheers.